Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
For years, David Phelps was the gospel music's beautiful voice that sends chills down your spine, brings tears to your eyes with vocal range that may shake the skies, and passionate with faith-driven creativity. He became a household name among Christians. What if I told you that, David? Phelps now faces a life sentence. No, we're not talking about the courthouse drama before jumping to assumptions. Stay tuned because this story is not. What are your thoughts? But first, let's take a step back and look at how he got here. David Phelps' adventure began at Tomball. Texas is a small town that values faith, and family was just as important in life as hierarchy. Friday, night football debuted in October. On the 21st of 1969, he was raised in a respected education and discipline. Self-expression. His father, Gene, transitioned from an accounting career banking, teaching business and finance in Houston, while his mother, Mary Ella, spent years developing young brains. An English professor, has two elder sisters. Sher Proctor and Carrie Lee Phelps grew raised in a strong environment, support system, but it did not take long to make his own unique gift stand out. Music was more than a pastime, was a calling after graduating from in 1988. He attended Tomball High School, his passion at Baylor University. He not only improved his voice abilities, under the supervision of Joyce Farwell, but also took on the task of directing the Baylor Religious Hour Choir Ice Encounter that deepened both his skills and his relationship to gospel music. He graduated in 1992 with a degree in music and vocal performance. His way was clear, but the moment that genuinely altered everything came in 1997, he joined Gaither Vocals. From that point on, his voice would not only be heard, but would also leave a long-lasting impact on gospel music. Moment Phelps stepped on stage with the Gaither Vocal Band, it was evident. He wasn't simply another talented vocalist. He had an incredible voice. It did not only fill a room, it commanded. Each note carried weight, not only in power but also in meaning. His tone is rich and raw. Delivery that enhanced every performance. Feel extremely intimate. It wasn't just regarding voice abilities. His range was stunning. It was about passion. Behind each line, he had a way of giving folks the impression that he was singing. He addressed them directly as if he understood their difficulties, joys, and faith. On a personal level, Gaither Vocal Band provided him a platform to highlight his remarkable gift. Phelps's aims extended beyond group harmonies. His solo career took off, demonstrating that he wasn't simply a powerful, he was a vocalist, an artist and a storyteller and an innovator. Albums like Life is a Church and Freedom highlighted his skills. To combine the richness of traditional gospel with contemporary overtones, creating something original and deeply. His performances were faith-based. More than concerts, they were immersive, whether performing in an intimate church setting or a large. He drew in the musical hall. Crowds make every song feel like a personal testimonial. His music wasn't. It was all about praise, a reflection on the struggle. Faith is a fundamentally human experience. What really made Phelps unforgettable, it was not simply his voice or his artistry, was his authenticity in an industry where brilliance frequently overshadows. He maintained a realistic personality with his fans. They weren't merely drawn to his music, were drawn to him. He never presented himself as larger than life. Instead, he possessed amazing talent, friendly, humble, and sincere. He talked with passion for his message. Faith is not an abstract concept, but as something lived, something real. People did not just listen to him. I believed him, and that connection ability to transform music into something David's deeply personal nature, Phelps is truly once in a generation. David may have been a gospel artist, superstar, yet at his core he was only a family man, regardless of how brilliant. When the stage lights returned home, he frequently discussed the heart. However, his faith kept him anchored. His wife and children gave him life. Meaning, beyond the music, while fans strong voice in the big performances were his happiest times. Simple ones include spending time with his family, sharing laughter and embracing simple joys that make life complete. Behind the success in the spotlight, there was another side to his story. Most folks never seen now to put Phelps had put everything in perspective. I have always been the type of artist who gives. He had everything, including every song. Every moment on stage felt like a chunk of his soul. For years, he made it appear effortless to hit. Impossible notes and pouring out his heart. Fans saw passion in each lyric, the energy and unwavering voice that they didn't see. What inspired so many was tiredness creeping in the quiet. He kept his conflicts private at first. A little tiredness was easily dismissed. That was usual for someone continually. However, over time, touring and performing indications grew more difficult to ignore. He started needing lengthier rests. Skipping rehearsals were something he had never done. Before, off stage, he was not his usual self. Friends saw him retreating further. He sits with his head in his hands. Between sets, appearing depleted in a way that went beyond merely being exhausted. His voice, the instrument that had carried him to stardom, started showing cracks, not in a way that most people would notice. During practice, he'd pause, clear his throat, shake his head, and try again. He pushed through, telling. He said it was just allergies or overuse. But deep inside, something felt wrong. People began to detect something. Concert dates were not appropriate. Disappeared from the schedule. Updates on social media slowed. He was always happy when interacting with fans. He began to fade when asked and flashed a reassuring smile and claim he was only. There's nothing to worry about while resting. He wasn't being truthful behind that smile. Ready to share, and soon the globe would. The truth has finally come out. During a private meeting of close friends, supporters, and other musicians, this was supposed to be a private evening of music, and celebration became amement that no one in the room will never forgot. David walked the stage and was greeted, the audience, and then, instead of singing, he spoke. The shift in the room was immediate. Conversations, quiet smiles disappeared, and an unsettling silence took over. Everyone could see something was awry. Then the words came. He had been battling a significant health issue that wasn't only affecting his energy. However, it also poses a hazard to define his life and speech. The reaction was swift, and whispers spread. Quiet gasps filled the air. Some wiped, others sat, transfixed, trying not to cry, to process what they were hearing. David Phelps, whose voice has felt almost unearthly, and the music was a source of hope and motivation. For so many, and now he stood before them, confessing that he may not be able to do what he enjoyed so much longer. But even in that tragic, his strength never wavered. Speaking with the same conviction as she had, always defined him, making it plain that, although the combat was real, it was not, in the end. Music had been his calling. Now he needed to take a step back and focus on his health, family, and faith. Whatever the future held, he was at. There was peace with it when he concluded. No spectacular performance, no triumphal finale. Note that there is only one man standing on stage, vulnerable, firm in his belief that his narrative was not over yet, anticipating the news about David Phelps. Discovery spread quickly, reaching everyone. Corner of the gospel music world, and beyond fans who have followed his career. For years, they battled to process. They have recently discovered their voice. Leaned on in their hardest situations. Music that had brightened their spirits, their trust had been strengthened, but it was now at jeopardy. After falling silent, social media emerged. How people shared prayers in an outpouring of emotion, memories and messages of support, recounting how his music had been source of consolation on their own. Some reflected on the first. They had heard him sing before. Others revisited their favorites, performances, unable to believe those strong vocals could soon be something of the past. It wasn't only fans. Fellow gospel artists reacted, musicians, including those outside the Christian music industry, openly shared their admiration, naming him one of the most brilliant voices of his generation. Many people commented about his impact, not just a singer, but also as a person whose kindness, humility, and steadfast trust left an impression on everyone he met. Clearly, David Phelps was more. He was not just an artist, but also a source of. He has been an inspiration to so many people. Music and the way he carried. During his life, the world. David's devastating news has been digested. My life took an abrupt and unexpected turn. The once-packed schedule that had tour rehearsals guided his every action. The recording interviews were abruptly empty. Concerts that had been booked months ahead. Advance tickets were now canceled, refunded, leaving fans unhappy. Understanding. For a man who had spent decades on the road, bringing worship life via song, stepping away felt. Initially, it felt as if he was losing a piece of himself. The unexpected transition was distressing for him. Waking up in a strange city, preparing for another performance. Enjoy the exhilaration of walking onto a stage and seeing thousands of faces. Looked up at him, ready to be moved. However, there were no flights, catching no arenas to fill his days once. Determined by sound checks and set lists, were now filled with calm moments. Reflection. He found himself at a place he hadn't been home in years, with no, if there were any immediate plans. To leave one thing that held him firm through the uncertainty was his family's. His wife and children have always been his main priorities. Supporters became his biggest source of comfort. They reminded him that while music had been an important part of his life, it was not the only thing that defined. He was a husband, parent, and man of. He had faith before he became a singer. Now, more than ever, he had to focus on things that genuinely mattered, though he had always valued his faith. The moment compelled him to rely on it in ways. He spent more time than he ever did before. Prayer, seeking guidance, trying to understand how the future may look. He realized that he wasn't the first artist to confront a situation like this. Musicians were obliged to step away from their craft owing to health concerns. However, knowing this did not make it any simpler. Behind the scenes, there were many. Industry sources speculate. I pondered what this meant for his career. Can he still record music live? Performance was no longer an option. Would he go into a new role? Consider creating songs for others. Mentoring younger artists or discovering alternative methods to share his gift there. There were a lot of questions, and no one, even David himself, had clear answers. Fans' main question was if he would ever return. Some clung on to hope. I believed that with rest and recovery, he would make his way back to the stage. Others thought that this would be the end of his singing career as they knew it. Thought was unpleasant. Gospel music without David Phelps felt nearly unimaginable. Regardless of uncertainty, one thing never. He changed his religion in a personal letter. He talked with people about he didn't dwell on the sadness. Instead, he expressed gratitude to his fans, stood by him, lifting him up in prayer for believing in him. Even during this trying season, he assured them that no matter what happens next, music will always be a part of him. It was only about performance. Message, connection, and spirit behind it. The journey ahead was unknown, but one truth remained David. Phelps has already established a legacy. His voice would last beyond any performance. Had touched hearts, his music had altered. Lives with no diagnosis, no struggle. Could take that away, whether he ever stepped onto a stage again. The influence would endure on, and for those, his melodies had moved me. Something they'd bring with them. For months, David Phelps withdrew from the spotlight as usual, updates, packed with personal reflections, behind-the-scenes experiences and statements from encouragement had come to a halt. Fans who had tracked his every step for years found themselves refreshing pages, looking for some sign of what was going on, but nothing came at first. He provided reassurance to his people, was probably taking a well-deserved break. After years of constant touring, but as the silence stretched, from weeks to months, concern intensified. Whispers of speculation littered the comments sections and fan forums. Some feared I was suffering an illness, while others, I wondered if he had decided to silently step away from music altogether. Just as the uncertainty felt, an unpleasant message emerged on his official pages are brief and direct. He just asked people to join him for an announcement with no details or explanations. A simple invitation that sent waves of anticipation through gospel music. When the day came, thousands of people tuned in, holding their breath. The screen faded from black. There he was. David Phelps is sitting in a softly lighted studio. His look is serene, but carrying a weight that had never been there before. He had changed after spending months abroad. There was something odd about the manner he held himself, in the way he took a moment to gather his thoughts before speaking. His intensity had always defined him. On stage was more subdued, now replaced with something deeper and heavier. He began to talk, and as he did so, it became obvious how much he had been. The previous months had been one of the most difficult times of his life. He had faced wars he had witnessed battles that had made him question everything, especially his future. In music, the tiredness was greater than merely the ordinary tiredness that came. After years of performance, this was something that shook. He, to his loyal fans who are listening, their houses felt the weight of his words. This was not just a casual update, an admission of difficulty with uncertainty. He had honestly, I worried if he'd ever return to the stage. And then he revealed that many had been eager to hear despite. He wasn't prepared to walk away from anything. The voyage had been rough, the road ahead remained uncertain, but music was too firmly ingrained in him to let go. He discussed changes to how things might look different going forward, concerning how he would need to be more intentional about his health and time, crowded schedules, and the continuous travel under. Tremendous pressure days may be behind him, but his love music for worship for the people who'd supported him for a long time. He remained, and as if to show it, I grabbed a microphone for a brief. Suddenly, there was nothing but silence. Then he began singing the first 5. Notes were faint and tentative, as if he was testing the waters months later. Away. But then things shifted. Power, emotion, and unmistakable. His powerful voice flowed forth, filling in a manner that made it plain. This was more than just a performance. A statement fans are watching from their homes were filled with emotion, sat in startled quiet, allowing the instant flood over them. Others wiped away, tears knowing how much it had taken. For him to reach this stage, social, the media burst with expressions of solidarity. People express relief, their thankfulness and excitement at hearing his voice again. The road ahead was uncertain. Whether this represented a new beginning or the conclusion of a chapter remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. David Phelps voiced the very force that had moved, inspired so many had not faded. Passion for music, unshakable faith, and the profound relationship he had with his. Although the audience remained intact, the stage lights dimmed and the throngs increased, silenced. The legacy he had made through years of dedication, passionate performances would never be erased. In some way, the voice might always find a way to contact those who needed it the most.